It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. Look outside. It's beautiful. It's bright. It's sunny. It's nice. It's late February. Now, tomorrow may not feel quite as good. Upper 40s for a high. But next week, forecast looks really good. That's your staff meteorologist delivering the news. Hello, Billy.
Hello, George.
How are you?
I'm great. Happy Friday.
Yes, tell me what's going on.
Well, we got some good news. Your buddy Eli Gold landed on his feet, I think, like we all expected. Former Alabama play-by-play broadcaster Eli Gold will be the radio voice of the new Nashville Cats.
It's a really good move by Pogge.
It really is.
You talk about a recognizable name in this part of the Southeast. It's Eli Gold. Alabama should be ashamed.
Yeah, obviously there was a lot floating around, the last few days about how it happened, what happened, but, happy for Eli. And of course we've had him on the show before, and, that's exciting. He's a legend and one of the great broadcasters in college football history. So congratulations to him.
He is that, and has been a great friend to me. Gosh, we go back almost 40 years together. I can remember we did a deal the day before my first game back as Vanderbilt's play-by-play announcer. The two of us spoke at a civic club, and I suggested that we trade places for a day, that I'll do Bama's broadcast and he does Vandy. And he did not agree to that. All in fun.
That would have been a little bit of a different feel for both of you, I would guess. going back to
Well, what was weird was, so the game is the next day. It's my first game as Vandy's announcer, and at the end of three quarters, Vandy led Alabama 19-7.
Whew.
Before losing 33-28.
Hey, it's a close game.
Very entertaining game. One of the largest crowds I've ever seen in that stadium, because it looked like a big batch of Alabama fans were able to cave in a fence and get in. There were closer to 45,000 in there that night.
At Vandy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, Eli Gold, again, congrats to him and the Nashville Cats. And everything going on there. They're going to play 10 games beginning April 27th. They'll have 5 home games played at Municipal Auditorium and then 1 out in Clarksville at the new F&M Bank Arena. So big stuff coming in April with some football. Speaking of Nashville, the Preds collected their 3rd straight win last night late. I got through 2 periods. But, man, they have really turned a corner here and have beaten 2 teams that I don't think Preds fans expected them to beat. I mean, we talked about this a few days ago. You said if they go 1-1, I'm happy.
Oh, absolutely.
They go 2-0 on a West Coast road trip.
Well, now they've got the 2.
They've got another.
They've got the 2 easiest games: San Jose tomorrow night, Anaheim on Sunday. Now
you can't slip up with these.
Oh, absolutely not. But here's the cynical me about all this, because I think it's a fair question. Okay, Barry Trotz discovers in some form or fashion that after the Dallas butt kicking a week ago, that the team that he's the general manager of seems a lot more interested in an early trip to Vegas to go see a U2 concert where the streets have no names Have you checked on that song?
I never did, but
Yeah,
I think I do know what you're talking about now.
And my point is, why should the general manager have to drop the hammer there? First of all, you've got a captain that knows it's going on. Shame on Roman Yossi for not putting a stop to the whole all we care about is Vegas. I mean, that is an issue that I believe Barry Trotz has to address with Roman Yossi. If you're the captain and you have that C on your jersey, you have to be my first line of defense.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then we don't need you as a captain. Don't get me wrong, Yossi's a fine player. I'm not saying anything about the player part, but he's the captain. And he knew it was going on, and he should have stopped it cold.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Barry Trotz, look, I'm not surprised he stepped in.
I'm not at all surprised, because I'll guarantee you, I left at the end of the second period, but I'll guarantee you when the game was over, you could have fried an egg on his head.
Yeah,
maybe an omelet.
He turned back the clock to Coach Trotz there.
He probably did. Good for him.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what does that tell you? Okay, all of a sudden they are good enough after he drops the hammer to go to St. Louis, which is one of the hottest teams in the league, go to Vegas, which is one of the best teams in the league, and go to the LA Kings, which has been one of the hotter teams in the league. Which one's the real Preds?
That's a really good question. I think we're going to learn that maybe here in the next few days with these next two games against teams they should beat. You know, the Preds have beaten teams they maybe shouldn't beat this year.
Lost to some teams they should have beaten.
Exactly. So they get up for big games, it feels like. And it's almost like they play better on the road a lot of times too, which I think some fans are frustrated with. But, you know, I do think this road trip
I'm frustrated with it. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm there virtually every night.
I mean, how
I don't get what's going on.
They rarely play well at home. Would you agree with that? I mean, there's been some wins and some exciting wins.
Yeah, and I'd have to look up their record. What has happened is there have been 4 or 5 real stink bombs.
Yeah.
Games where, you know, you want to leave at the end of the second period because it's over.
Yeah, and, you know, I don't know that this – like, I'm not going to sit here and say this Preds team all of a sudden can make a run in the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe they can. But that's the thing about the NHL. And, you know, Willie, when we had him on, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, where he said, hey, you know, hold your horses.
Last week.
It was last week. He said, hold your horses. All of a sudden, they've got 2 in a row. So
I don't guess he got to go see you two either.
No, I guess not. Ryan says SJ and Anaheim aren't bottom feeders.
Hello? Well, I mean, help me. Where is San Jose? I can't look it up while I'm in here. San Jose absolutely is a bottom feeder.
Let's see here. In the Western Conference,
the Blackhawks
San Jose
are in there.
Sharks are 15-35 and last in the Pacific.
I mean, what would you call that? That's a bottom feeder.
Anaheim is second to last in the Pacific, 20-34. That's a bottom feeder, Ryan.
Right now they are. That doesn't mean they will be forever. But at the moment, those are teams you got to take care of.
Yeah, so the Preds tomorrow night, correct? They've got I didn't get their schedule pulled up.
Say that again.
Preds tomorrow night in San Jose, correct.
Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock in San Jose, and then
Sunday
7 o'clock. And that's
tough.
At this time of the year, 2 games and in 2 nights gets dicey.
Yeah, no matter who you're playing.
And every team goes through some of it.
Yeah, so again, I think the Preds can prove it. They can put the proof in the pudding these next couple of nights out west.
These are take care of business kind of games.
Yeah. All right, Titans updated cap space after the NFL has finalized their salary cap. According to multiple reports, the league notified teams this morning that the cap for this season is set at $255.4 million, an increase of $30 million from last year. And the Titans cap space now sits at a whopping $78.6 million.
So can the Preds borrow some of the Titans cap space?
Oh, man, I'm sure Bear would
Is that
like
where
to.
you were going?
No, but the fourth highest total in the league. And, we talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
But,
How about that?
there's not a single free agent the Titans can't afford. I think that's what you look at now. That doesn't mean you need to overpay. And, again, that's kind of the decision-making with the Titans right now. You've got all this money. My hope, George, is that they don't try to do it all in one offseason. I know the fans would obviously love to see a huge turnaround in one offseason, but I don't know that they have to do that. I mean, they need a better season than last year, but I just hope there's no overdoing it.
All of this eventually is to have this team at Super Bowl contender status the minute that dome opens.
Yep. That's what it is. And I think they've kind of insinuated that too. I think that's fairly obvious. Let's see. We got Griff coming up. Got some SEC hoops tomorrow. A couple good matchups. Not this one in particular. Vanderbilt at Florida. Early tip. Get that one out of the way. Florida is a 17.5-point favorite. Missouri is at Arkansas tomorrow. South Carolina is in Ole Miss. That's a big one for both teams. That's at 2:30. Alabama at Kentucky. 3 o'clock on CBS.
Wouldn't mind a ticket to that one.
Yeah, I mean, for Kentucky, it feels like every game down the stretch here. I mean, they're in the tournament. We know that. But
yeah, but you don't know what you're getting out of Kentucky.
Exactly. Every night, no matter who they're playing. Auburn is at Georgia. Georgia got, of course, picked up a win in Nashville this week. A&M is in Knoxville. The return of Buzz Williams.
Revenge.
It's
only been 2 weeks ago.
I'll be watching that. That'll be interesting to see what Tennessee fans have in store for old Buzz.
This just in. Tennessee wins that game.
Tennessee will pummel them.
We, of course, have Plaster Bet of the Day later. We're on a 1-game winning streak. You'll want to tune in.
Yeah. And then Mississippi State at LSU as well tomorrow night. So that's what we got on the docket. I think Griff might be ready.
Oh, I know he is. So let's go ahead and go to the break. We'll get into February basketball, which to me is a little bit different. Coaches get a little more neurotic.
Spring break coming up.
Players start getting on edge. We have more of this that goes on in February. Fights. Officials have to be at their best because this is the month that is the payoff window. We'll talk with Mark Griffin about February when we come back.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. Oh, I love that music about this time of the year. In March, those of us who are big basketball fans, we're all whistling. We do it.
Feels good.
Yeah. Let's say hello to Mark Griffin, former University of Tennessee basketball star. His weekly Friday visit, always a lot of fun. Mark, how are you?
Great, George, and Billy, but I never thought I'd be on the same photo with Nick Saban. I'm shaking my head going, I don't know if I like that, but
put that back up there. Let's make sure everybody saw that.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, we got the guy on the left is worth conservatively a couple $100 million.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, Mark and I are good friends, and he's not.
No.
And I can also tell you the host isn't either.
Hey, Mark's got a tie at least.
And I'm happy.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that is good. I like that. Okay, I want to start with our friend Little Ricky. Little Ricky. So I watched the game Sunday night, the complete meltdown of his St. John's team against Seton Hall. Yeah. And it does look like after a series of these that where their program is right now is they really haven't learned how to close the deal.
Right.
So he goes to the press conference with his newly dyed kind of goldish orange hair. Did you notice that?
No.
Oh, we'll take a look. And ripped into his team.
Yeah.
And said a lot of things that he had to end up taking back by Wednesday. So I'm guessing here, I don't know this, that on Wednesday he spoke to his team and said, guys, I've made a mistake here.
No.
Okay.
He's not apologizing, George. He's not apologizing.
But if I'm a player at St. John's, I'm sitting there saying, listen, cut the crap. Okay, we should have heard from you on Monday. The only reason we are hearing from you is because you've caught more crap for it than you thought you would, and you got forced to back down. How in the world, Mark, does he regain that locker room with that group of players now that he's done this?
Unless he's got a leader on his team that's a take charge vocal leader to rally the team as individuals, then there's no turning back. Because I don't see any coach, for that matter, apologizing for their comments. It doesn't happen. I've been on that end before, unfortunately, years ago, and you would hope that a coach would come in and say, "Hey guys, I was a little angry and apologize." Coaches aren't apologizing, so that part he's not doing. And then when he tried to back out, that's even worse because the damage is done when the kids heard about it or got on their phones and listened to it. And you know when you're already struggling and you have your coach publicly coming at you, it makes it even worse. I mean, that stuff you deal with in the locker room, or you do one-on-one visits, or maybe a couple of your leaders or even your seniors get involved, but you don't lash out at your players like that. I just think you lose them the rest of the season. Now, the one thing, the players will come out playing because they love the game, but they're not playing for. I don't feel they're playing to help Coach Pitino. They're playing to help their brothers.
Okay, so I'm a little old school at this because when at a really young age that I got a chance to be a color analyst on the Division I level, it was because of C.M. Newton. And the thing I felt like I learned from C.M. Newton, because we went through some rough times the first couple of years, including an 11-game SEC losing streak.
Wow.
And the thing I learned out of that is, oh yeah, you can be critical of players, but it absolutely has to be in-house.
Yes. Oh, I agree. And players are smart enough to know if they're not performing. You don't have to read the paper or read quotes. You just know because you have your expectations as well. And it's not just winning. I mean, you look at other metrics that are involved. And of course, with all the stats that are out that are looked at by players, it could be assist to turnover ratio. It could be offensive rebounds, getting to the free throw line, and just getting up shots show that you're being aggressive other than just relying on jump shots. So there's, once again, metrics involved that you can measure how you're doing, and you can compare conference play to pre-conference play. So a lot goes on in the equations to measure performance. And your coaches they're just going to ride you, period. And I don't know any coach that's successful that does not try to get the best out of their players. And there's different means, but some coaches run them to death as the old school method. I think the best method when someone's not performing, you ride the bench. That's the best teacher. Been there, done that. And when you're watching your teammates or even someone that you feel is not as good as you to help your team win, it really inspires you the next day when practice comes up to say, hey, I've got to make a difference. I've got to step up. But when your coach is going public, you're pretty much writing him off.
Mark, I've always believed that right about this time of the year, let's say around February 15th until the end of the regular season, that it's really different. Number one, coaches are neurotic. They're on edge, and they are working the officials from the minute the anthem is over.
Yeah.
There's a physical level of play that if an officiating crew doesn't get it under control, you get more fights in February than any other time because everybody can see exactly what the game means. They read Lenardi. They know, hey, Lenardi says the winner of this game will be in, and the loser will now fall to first four out. So the players know exactly what's at stake. Talk to me about February basketball and why, in your mind, as a player, it was different.
One of the better analogies, George, that I can think of, it's like you're a baseball player and you've hit one in the gap and you're rounding third for an inside the park home run. Well, when you're coasting around second, it feels really good. You got a lot of energy. And you're getting to third, you're all excited because the coach is waving you around third. But when you're around in third, the breaths are harder to come by. And you're getting more antsy and building with anticipation of, can I make it to home plate before that ball reaches? Because what's in play? I can stay safe at third. Maybe the next guy knocks me in. Or if I'm round third, I'm taking increased risk, but increased reward to score it inside the park home run, which we know is so rare. And I think that's the best way to explain what it is at the end of February, is that you've got increased risk, but increased reward, but it takes a lot. And it takes a lot of energy. It takes stamina. It takes a mental approach that you've really got to reach in mentally and be strong. You've got to have the attitude when things don't go well, it's next play. You have a short-term memory, and that's hard to do. And then, mind you, some players, and I don't really buy that they're not conditioned to handle this, but some guys are in better shape than others, and coming into this time period have a little fatigue factor. And when you're playing 34 minutes to 37 minutes a game, other teams' top players may be playing 30 minutes a game. Those extra 7 minutes a game times 20 start to add up.
Mark, I remember, and this is pathetic to admit, but it was true. The first year that I was ever involved in the broadcasts of a Division I college basketball team was 1983-84.
Wow.
And I remember by the end mentally being drained.
Yeah.
And I remember not even wanting to watch the NCAA tournament because I was sick of basketball, completely sick of it. And I remember saying to myself, okay, if you do this next year, man, you can't do this. You love basketball too much to feel this way. But I know that there are players who, when they get to this point, spring break, warmer weather, not winning, sick of their coach, man, they hit a wall, mental wall, sometimes physical.
It reminds me of the past, and talking to several former student athletes from different programs, where if you really didn't have buy-in and thinking you were going to the NCAA tournament, George, you were making plans for spring break. You were looking forward to stepping away from basketball. And I know that may be hard for listeners to fathom, to go, well, you're just brought up to compete every game. Yes, you are. But at some point, you just want to throw in the towel, and you don't, because you love competing. But it's just so many factors are coming at you, and including stress and other situations that you try to control. And when you're not winning, and the chances are very rare that you're going to make the tournament, you do look for some comfort out there or an escape. You just hope it's later. I mean, because that's why they have the tournaments, George. For these teams that aren't a lock, you go in and win a tournament, and now they're called bid stealers. But it gives you a chance to prolong your season and to make a difference. And who wants to play sports and look back 10, 20, 30 years and go, man, we really sucked? And I can tell you, even in my playing days years ago, first couple of years, we sucked. And who wants to be a part of that?
Mark, what a lot of people forget, they know you were a player at Tennessee, but you were also a coach during a really rough time where Wade Houston didn't look like he really was ready to be a Division I coach at that level. Attendance at Thompson Bowling had cratered to about 3,000 a game, which shocked me. I remember walking into a game going, oh my God, there's no one here. So tell me, how hard, because Vandy's kids are going through this.
Yeah, it's tough.
I feel sorry for those kids. How hard is this when you're faced with, you're not winning at all, one win isn't really going to make a lot of difference. It's a crummy season. And by the way, nobody's here to help motivate you. How hard is that?
It's so hard, George. Most of that staff made a career change, and guess what? It wasn't basketball. Mine was short-lived as well. We were 21-5. We had won 5 games and lost 21. It's kind of flipped. So that was my experience in major college coaching. I was the youngest SEC coach in the conference, and I lasted 9 months. And then I had to look inside and go, is this my passion? Is this what I'm called to do? I would have worked at UT for free to wear orange and white and to guide young men and help develop them for on the court and off the court. But it just wasn't in the calling cards, because if you're not in the game, and we talk about the fraternity, and that is true, I just didn't have contacts to say, hey, I can come and help you because I'm recruiting X and X and X. And if you're only there 9 months, you don't have that. But answering your question even more, your comments more, George, it's very difficult when you turn on the radio when you're going home after practice and all you hear is how bad the team is and how bad it's led. And you feel bad for Coach Houston because he's such a great man. And if people only knew what the coaching staff witnessed behind closed doors of people in tears, just yearning to get a victory and turn things around, and the emotions involved. You just hear about how much money coaches make, and there's a lot more to that. And then the welfare of the student athletes when they're getting ribbed going to class and they don't want to wear their Tennessee basketball shirt because they're going to get made fun of, or they're in their car and someone says how terrible they are. I mean, it's just hard, but it's a life lesson. And that's what you try to teach these young men. And what I learned myself is like, look, life's not easy. We've got to power through, push through, look for something positive, look for some teaching points that you can build upon to improve your character and move forward. And there's been many times, George, and anybody that's ever played the sport that wasn't successful with a winning percentage, I know that they can look back and say, hey, what did I learn from that that's helped me in my current field that I can make a difference? And I know that's been my attitude when I work with other people, is like, hey, things can get rough at home, on the court, and just in general society, but what can you learn from it, and how can you turn it around to help others? And I'm hopeful that's what a lot of these teams and even the student athletes at Vanderbilt that are going through such a tough time, and Missouri, because think, George, Missouri were 25-10 last year.
Yeah.
I mean, this is night and day for those players that are still there.
Okay, let's go back a week ago, Mark, because on Monday and Tuesday of this week, the rumor mill was flying like I have never seen it fly in 45 years as a sports broadcaster, not just as a talk show host, but just sports in general, going back to when I was in college. I believe that a lot of the rumors early in the week stemmed from what went on in Knoxville last Saturday, where Jerry Stackhouse allowed Tennessee to go on what I call biblical proportion runs where anybody with a brain says timeout at some point. And he never did. And a lot of people noticed what looked like sort of a disinterested Jerry, started to try to put 2 and 2 together and said he coached as though he knew he was being bought out by the school. Now, I don't think that was the case.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what was going on, but that's what I believe has spawned all these rumors. You watched the game with a different shade of glasses than I did. You're rooting for one team. I'm kind of hoping for another, even though I know what's going to happen. Did you think he coached disinterested?
George, I haven't seen many games where I've seen him coach interested. I mean, when I don't want to be critical, but I just want to call what I see as are facts. when at home games, even on the road, when you don't elicit the assistant coaches to help you make strategic changes, looking for player-on-player advantages, competitive advantages, when to call a timeout. When you go solo in a coaching arena that he does, to me, sends a bad sign. It tells me you don't trust your assistants. Now, they may be great people, but if you're not looking to get help from your assistants, then what does that say about you, that you know it all? Yes, he runs great stuff, and we will not argue with that. He has inferior talent overall. We won't argue with that. But to not involve your assistants, I don't understand. And yes, you could say, well, they help with the scouting report. Well, you can't tell it on the court because you watch any of these other teams, George, and I challenge your audience. Watch, and you can pick a game. Let's say Alabama against Kentucky tomorrow. See if Coach Oates has an assistant that's more vocal than normal. You know who that coach is? He probably did the scouting report. Look at Coach Calipari and see which coach on the sideline stands up and more vocal. It's probably the coach that did the scouting report. Watch Vanderbilt. None of the coaches are doing anything other than what Coach Stackhouse is running.
Yeah, there was an assistant last year that did a lot of the scouts. You know, he was really important in their win over Kentucky at Rupp Arena. He was important in their win again over Kentucky at Bridgestone, Adam Mazzari, who is actually out in California now. You know, kind of take your guess there. You know,
there's been a fruit basket turnover that does not look good. Now, don't get me wrong. Look, by now, everybody knows how I feel. This is a no-brainer. There needs to be a coaching change.
Yeah.
But first of all, not only do I not think he involves his coaching staff on game day, I'll take it a step further. They look scared to death to even come over there and say anything to him.
Yeah, and I went to the Vanderbilt-Tennessee game. I try to go every season. And even watching Coach Barnes, yes, he's standing out on his own, but he walks back to the bench, got his ear where he's listening. Someone's yelling at him or a player goes up to him. I watched Stackhouse. He's sitting on that little stool, nice suit. Yeah, we've all talked about his clothing. Great. That doesn't matter. But you don't see anybody in his ear. And you can't, George, you can't know what's going on in a sixth grade middle school game, JV, all by yourself these days with as much as going on strategy-wise, mismatches, changing defenses, players that aren't hustling, knowing rotation of your bench. I'm telling George, one person cannot do that in today's world, especially in major college basketball.
Okay, now you've coached it. I have not. Okay, so this is why I'm asking this. During a game, what is it that as he stands over there by himself, that he's missing out on that you believe his assistant coaches ought to feel comfortable to be telling him?
Well, it's hard. You know, coaches learn not just to watch the ball. You're watching everybody else. You're watching movement, making sure the plays are in sync. One thing that a coach can help with, George, is a particular mismatch. Say there's a substitution, someone gets in foul trouble. They bring in a sub who's slow defensively. That's when would be a good time for an assistant to say, hey, number 13's in, slow feet, let's run X. Now, one can argue, he already knows that. But when you've got what I mentioned before, all these other things going in your head, it's really hard to line those up and prioritize and carry through and execute on all things. You just can't do it, George. I'm sorry. You just cannot do it. And I've coached travel basketball, being an assistant coach, and thank goodness I had a head coach in William Bellerford that that was open to dialogue. Now, as a head coach, it's the head coach's decision what they want to do, and you respect that as an assistant. They may say, I don't like what you're saying, but you know it's out of respect. But you have that relationship that you at least have the dialogue, and then the head coach makes the decision. But you got to have the dialogue, and that's just not there.
Okay, we're going to go to the break, and then you're going to take over, which probably means it'll be a lot better segment. Coming up, Mark Griffin talking college basketball on the George Plaster Show.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
The folks at Cool Springs MD will be holding an open house Thursday, February the 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. They'll be unveiling the new Empower laser, which is incredible. It will turn back the clock on your body, and it's the only laser indicated for mixed urinary stress incontinence. Turn back the clock and take control of your body with the new Empower laser. They'll unveil it at Cool Springs MD. Hope to see you Thursday night, February the 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Here's where the show improves dramatically. Mark takes over. He's the quarterback. I'm where I need to be. I'm the punter. So where are we going first?
All right. Let's take a look at the SEC basketball standings. Now, we'll be quick here, but just a couple things to point out is some movement. And George, please jump in, or Billy, as you wish. Two teams that I really – well, actually three that I wanted to focus on briefly. Florida, Mississippi State, and LSU.
LSU. Let's start with LSU.
Well,
what do you really think they are?
I think they're a team that's inspired as an underdog to prove the SEC that they're going to give you a dogfight every night. They may not have the best talent because Coach McMahon had to go through the depths of a transfer pool, if you remember George and Billy, and pulled up what he could. I mentioned last week when Billy brought up the question, which one of the bottom 4 teams did you think had a better shot? And at that time, LSU, I think, was sitting at 11. Well, now they're jumped to 8, and I think they'll continue to jump. Love Jordan Wright. Vanderbilt's lost, LSU's gained, and other players. You just see effort. And I mentioned previously, we're talking about coaching. You shouldn't have to coach effort. That's something that comes from inside. And you're seeing that with this team, that now they're believing that they can win. Now, I did hear one commentator, I thought it was a little premature, said, hey, you got to watch out now. LSU could be an NCAA team. Well, let's get a few more wins behind us. Yeah, and it may have been Jimmy Dykes, because he's hyping every.
Oh my gosh,
he hypes Missouri. So that's just who you're dealing with. But that's the first team, and then Mississippi State, I believe, has won 4 in a row, which is kind of a pleasant surprise for me. I love the Hubbard kid and Tolu Smith, and they're playing well defensively. And I really was the trump card in the past was like, which direction would Florida go after Tennessee just derailed them at home? And their guard play through the transfer portal, once again, Todd Golden has pulled out some treasures, and they've really are on the radar now and are in the field, according to Joe Lunardi. So, and obviously top 25 team. So the nation is now aware of Florida. Big concern for other teams in the SEC is their style of play.
Yeah, I heard a lot of buzz recently for Florida, Mark, that they could be a second weekend team in the NCAA tournament. Are you buying that? I mean, you think they're –
it's interesting. I am buying it now because of their guard play. Now, do they have that one go-to player to get a bucket? They actually have 2. They have 2 really great guards in Pullen and Clayton Jr. that could get baskets for you. And what I really love about this Florida team, and this is why they dissect a team like Kentucky, because, Kentucky's biggest struggle, and I have to talk about Kentucky a little bit, is they struggle on the dribble drives. And what that means is just driving straight to the basket. Defenders aren't collapsing enough time. They're trying to hover over their man because they're afraid if they collapse and you kick out, their man scores a 3, they're going to get pulled out, which does happen a lot. But Florida's guards probably do the best job that I've seen in the SEC, penetrating the gaps in the middle. And when that happens, it just seems natural that their opposite guard is waiting at the 3-point line to knock down a big basket. Plus,
okay, I'm going to lay one on you, Mark.
One last thing. Florida's got 3, at least guys that are 6'11", that are doing a really good job rebounding the ball, and I think that helps as well.
Well, it's like they have another Colin Castleton. I don't know his name, but kind of the big white kid that he's just kind of takes up space.
Yeah, Condon, who's actually from Perth, Australia, is a big freshman. Okay. He's one of them, number 21. Yeah.
Okay, remember you heard this. Team number 7, team number 9, and team number 10. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, A&M. You ready?
Yeah.
One of those 3 will end up in Dayton.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If I'm once again going the betting man, if I was a betting man, use that analogy. I'm thinking more Ole Miss or Texas A&M, and they're hopeful. You were talking earlier, George, about being February. Being a time of basketball. I started thinking about February to me is Valentine's, and you're going to have some Ole Miss and Texas A&M fans going to have their hearts broken.
Boy, A&M, why can't they just get over that hump? It's like every year is the same the last 3 or 4 years.
Welcome to Dayton.
Yeah, and we'll talk about them again in a minute, I'm sure.
Okay, where are we going now?
That's up
you want to go?
Oh, you're letting Billy run it?
You want to go a little trivia, Mark?
Let's do trivia.
All right.
This is for George, by the way.
Okay, because, of course, I know the answer. In the SEC, there are 2 teams that have not signed at least a 4-star player for the 2024-25 season. So that's this upcoming class, correct,
Who
Mark?
determines whether they're a 4-star or not?
This is through 24/7 Sports.
Okay, good enough.
Yes.
I mean, that sounded better than saying AtlantaBraves.com.
Credible
Vandy?
sources here.
Vandy?
George, I'm gonna let you pick, George, because you may not know this. I know Billy and I do. I did some research into next season, and I want to hear who you think they are. One may be a surprise, and one may not be a surprise.
Vandy and Georgia.
You know what? You're correct with Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Now, why is that important, George? I'll let you. Reason I pulled that up. Why do you think that's important moving forward?
Well, because it would continue the trend of not very good recruiting.
Yeah, that's it.
This other one I wouldn't have guessed.
Well, let's see it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
South Carolina.
Little
surprise. But I think I'll tell you the reason why I think this has popped up. You're getting more of the recruits that are going on visits now. And remember, this is a new run for South Carolina. So, and a new coach for South Carolina recently, second year. So he doesn't have these built-in relationships with a lot of the travel basketball teams at the helm of South Carolina in that level. Now, Chattanooga, yes, but when you step into the SEC, you are recruiting a different tier of athlete for the most part. So I can understand that. And once again, I feel South Carolina will land them a 4-star at least, the way they are playing now and their style and need. But Vanderbilt, not looking too good. Now, George, you did mention Georgia. I will tell you, they are one of the 5 teams that have got a signee that's a 5-star. And Georgia, one of the 5, Asa Newell, that's out of Florida.
Okay, what's next?
Nothing but net.
Nothing but net. Now, with the nothing but net, I definitely want to hear your guys' comments, because one could easily say, oh, you just watched the game last night and pulled this. Well, it's interesting. This has been on my list of teams that I've been following because of what's going on in the Pac-12, and knowing that Lunardi at one point had 3 teams in the Pac-12, and now it's down to 2 because of Utah. And I was like, well, who's the other teams? And if you were to ask most people in the country who don't follow Pac-12, who would guess Washington State? Not many. So the last night's game, I tried to stay up, guys, but I was in Knoxville, and I just couldn't stay up to watch the most of it. And when I got up this morning at 5, first thing I looked at, and it was 5, and I'm like, who won the game?
Big upset.
And it's amazing because, and that's just how I live.
At Arizona.
They beat Arizona, George, on the road.
Right.
Arizona was 13-0 at home this season. And speaking of Kyle Smith, this is a name that people, and George, you and I and Billy are going to be talking about during the rest of our segments for this season, because he's going to get a lot of attention. And you may ask, what's good about Washington State? Well, they don't have a lot of 5-stars. I'll tell you that, if any. They may not have many 4-stars, but they are led by their coach. And Kyle Smith is just hitting on all cylinders. And I thought, what's going on with this gentleman? Because I don't know anything about him. Okay. So what I found, guys, he's been coaching this is his 14th season. He got his break at Columbia. He was there 6 seasons, went to San Fran. Believe it or not, Todd Gold was one of his assistants.
Wow.
And then he moved on to Washington State. And like we've had here in the past, kind of a common theme when we've talked about coaches, this is his 5th year. And guess what? Never been to the NCAA tournament. So you're thinking, well, is this the year? He's been to the NIT twice with Washington State. Now, he's a lock now to go to the NCAA tournament. But in his 14 years, guys, it's not like he's had to come in and really rebuild programs. He's only had 2 losing seasons over his 14-year career, which says a lot when you're talking about Columbia, San Francisco, and now Washington State, which is a team that hadn't even been to NCAA since 2008.
They were not. I watched it. They were not the least bit intimidated.
No.
Going to Arizona, and a lot of Pac-12 teams are.
Yeah,
it's scary.
Jalen Wells is a really good player. He had 27 points for them, and they're calling this style of play nerd ball.
Wow.
And Mark, I might send you. I don't know if you've read. There's a couple articles out there on it. They say he's got a maniacal use of analytics, and he kind of learned this under Randy Bennett at St. Mary's. And you mentioned it, Mark. He's got guys from Division II schools, JUCOs, got a transfer from South Carolina. So he's one of the hotter commodities now that I think may not be at Washington State next year.
That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And even that, guys, I know we'll get into this in a couple of weeks, so we'll call this a teaser, but they're the type of program that could be a second weekend type program.
Dangerous.
That no one's talking about in that realm. Now, people are talking about them today. I still call it Twitter. And there was a lot of articles about Washington State because a lot of people were shocked what happened last night against, I think, a great Arizona team. I really do.
The line at tip-off moved up to 13.5.
There you go.
In favor of
Arizona.
Right.
Arizona.
And I crushed it. Plaster bet of the day, Washington State.
There you go.
Pretty proud of that one. I need to be proud of something.
Yeah. Okay, we got a bonus slide here that Mark wanted to put in here, the most disappointing team.
Okay, hold on, because I knew it was going to be Miami, but I'm going to throw a couple more. Yes. Okay. Let's say these are others receiving votes. Notre Dame, USC. This whole Bronny James is ready for the NBA. Please, not anywhere close. He hadn't even been a star. And now look, I understand
he's coming off cardiac arrest.
He's off the bench.
Coming off some big health stuff. But LeBron keeps talking like he's ready to play in the NBA. And I'm sorry, I've watched him. He's not.
No.
Neither am I.
No.
NC State would be another receiving votes. Colorado.
Memphis.
Oh, God,
my
Memphis.
Gosh.
That was my second team was Memphis.
Good choice. Okay. So Larinaga is, I believe, if not the oldest, one of the 2 or 3 oldest Division I head coaches. And he's had a lot of success over the years.
Final Four last year.
Yep.
Do you think he's back next season?
Well, when I look at the recruiting and what they're doing moving forward, unless he can really hit that transfer portal, George, the timing may be great for him to ride off in the sunset or take an advisory role with the university if he decides he wants to. And I'm not saying you have to go youth movement, but let's say, any age below 60 is a youth movement when you're comparing it to him. But he's got a lot of energy. I give the guy a ton of credit.
Oh, absolutely.
I hope that I live to that age and have that energy because it's not easy. And what's really not easy, guys, is to be, let's say, I don't know, is he 75? But
74.
74.
To be able to communicate with these 18 to 22-year-old kids on his own, obviously has help with his assistants, but to be able to relate with that generation gap, not just phrases on the court, but just, hey, life experiences is amazing.
Okay. That's it, correct?
That's it.
All I got.
Mark, thank you as always. We'll do it again next Friday. Great stuff.
All right. I'll be in Knoxville tomorrow. I know we get to talk about A&M as much, but 3 straight losses for A&M since they beat UT, and they were not pretty losses. So it'll be interesting. And I will be yelling at Buzz, and they're going to be all over him when he walks across the court to go to the bench. I can't imagine what the fans are going to be yelling at him, but I can't wait because UT fans are waiting on him to put one foot on that floor.
Well, knowing Buzz, he'll enjoy it.
Oh, he'll drink.
He'll eat it up.
He'll drink his water, chew his gum.
Yeah, what is he drinking over there?
Who knows? He's
Who
got a
wears
nose.
vests? But anyway.
Yeah. See you. See you next Friday.
All right. Enjoy it, guys.
See you, Mark.
Oh, good stuff today.
Mm.
By the way, the 3 plaster bets of the day are going to be straight out of the SEC.
It just means more.
Well, to the 3 that are going to win, yes, it will.
Will it mean more wins for Plaz? We'll see.
That I don't know about. We'll go to the break. We'll have stat of the day where I've been a complete embarrassment. And then we'll bring Nick Saban front and center stage with something he's put out there. Stick around. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
All right, 3:07 the time, a little late, but that was a great conversation with Mark Griffin talking some college hoops.
It's fun talking to Mark.
Oh, yeah. Stat of the day right now, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. All right, a little hoops question. NBA, Domantas Sabonis, former Gonzaga Bulldog, has recorded a double-double in 38 straight games, which is the longest streak since what player in 2011?
It happened in 11.
Yeah. So think 2011.
Gosh. It doesn't feel like Kobe. Kobe certainly wasn't going to have double-digit assists. I don't think he would have had rebounds. It's a Dallas Maverick.
No, it's not.
Well, should be.
Are you thinking Nowitzki?
Yeah. I don't know. Flip it out here.
All right, Kevin Love.
Good Lord. We could have played this game for a while.
Yeah,
I'd forgotten he was a Timberwolf.
Me too. That kind of put a wrench in it for me. Because
Wow.
so he went T-Wolves.
Somewhere in there was Miami. Somewhere in there was Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
And then back to Miami.
Is he still in the league, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
UCLA grad.
He's been going for a while now.
Western Kentucky, when Darren Horn was there, played UCLA in the Sweet 16. And Kevin Love was UCLA's center.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I bet Darren didn't enjoy coaching
Probably
against him.
wanted him to foul out quick. Okay. So some of you have seen this story, and I, for one, am kind of happy about it. Nick Saban in retirement has kind of come out, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the exact quote, but it was something to the effect of, I want to be a part of changing college football for the better. Now, I will tell you whether the rumor is true or not. The story that has come out of Tuscaloosa is that Saban, right before he announced his retirement, had gotten a phone call from a player agent who said, if you don't raise your offer to whatever X was, my client is going somewhere else. And Saban supposedly just threw up his hands and said, screw it, I am out of here.
I'm done.
That's the story that you hear a lot coming out of Tuscaloosa. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't have proof. I'm just telling you that's the rumored story that you hear. So, Saban says he wants to be part of a group that helps fix college football. And God knows we all agree, I think, and all believe it needs some serious fixing. Now, depending on how you go about doing it, do you enlist Congress for help in fixing the issues? Do you, what do you do? I have believed all along that what it needs to start with is a weekend at Bernie's, if you will. Remember the movie?
I've
Weekend
heard of
at
it.
Bernie's. You need to watch it. It's funny. A weekend where you have some of the great minds in and around college football to sit down and say, we're not leaving here until we have some concrete suggestions to throw at either the NCAA, if it so exists, Congress, if they feel that's the place, wherever it is they think this ought to be taken. Here is Plaster's Nick Saban committee. Starting with.
Drum roll, please.
Boy, doesn't he look formal there?
He does.
Yeah. Wow.
Man, I can see him in this role.
Well, I think first of all, he's very serious, and I think he's legit in wanting to fix it. Here's where he carries weight. When he walks in the room, he is the greatest college football coach of all time. And until about 10 years ago, a lot of us never thought anybody but Bear Bryant would have that underneath them. But he walks into whatever room, whatever banquet hall they get together in, as the greatest football coach in college football history. Period.
I think he's perfect. He can be the guy to save college football. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I can't think of anybody else that would be better.
Remember that what you're going to hear is me. This is going to be me talking. So you may have a totally different group. And if you do, great. Doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong. It just means if I was the one choosing, I chose 10 people. And here's number 2.
David Cutcliffe.
Okay. Obviously somebody that I think the world of. Consider a great friend. Most importantly, Braves fan. David Cutcliffe has some of the best, what I would call morals, ethics about doing the right thing in college football as anybody that it will be on this group that you're going to see. For me, for that committee, David Cutcliffe is a must.
Absolutely.
Number 3.
Bill Snyder.
Bill Snyder did miracle worker stuff at Kansas State. Now, to a younger audience that is only used to Kansas State being pretty good for a long time now, they were Vandy, they were Tulane, they were the dregs of society, Northwestern. This guy was a miracle worker and then came back and fixed it all up again a second go-round.
Yeah, there's a reason why, K-State is still really good. They had that strong of a foundation that Snyder built to where Chris, what's his last name? Chris Kleiman could come in and he had some work to do, but I mean, they had a foundation, and he's the reason why.
Number 4.
Bob Stoops.
Oh, yeah.
Boomer.
He's been out of the game for a little while. He's now been retired, 5-6 years?
Well, he's coached in the
whatever, the
USFL.
spring league.
Yeah.
Which,
if that even counts.
For me, has nothing to do with this. I just think Bob Stoops is a guy I want in the room because I think he's a no BS, cut to the chase. Let's talk real. Let's not talk as though nobody's cheating. Bob Stoops is a lay it out there and be real kind of guy.
Yep. Another one of the elder statesmen, not as old as some of the other guys, but he's been here a while.
This one's going to surprise you. I think he is the most underrated great football coach in college football.
Kyle Whittingham.
I think what he's done at Utah is something really special. Utah at times feels like an out of sight, out of mind kind of deal. We think we know a lot about USC and UCLA, and we know a lot about Colorado, but Utah is one that you're like, never been there, don't know much about it. Man, what this guy has done there, it warrants a seat at that table for me.
Well, kind of right in the middle here, I think this piece of breaking news warrants a pause in this top 10.
Okay.
Tennessee and Virginia have won their preliminary injunction against the NCAA.
Ooh.
And now booster-funded NIL collectives can communicate directly with high school recruits and transfer portal players in the 2 states. The NCAA is finished.
Wow.
This is the beginning, like we all kind of thought. And I'm sure we'll get into a lot more of that, but wanted to get that out there.
Wow. Okay.
Resume.
Yeah. So much for my committee.
Well, it's important now. Right after that, I mean, college football is still going to need some help.
Number 6.
Mac Brown.
Here's why. Not because he's Watson's brother, but when I hear him talk, in particular when he was a color analyst at ESPN, like the late, great C.M. Newton, this guy always makes a lot of sense. Mac Brown, I want him in that room. Because here's the thing. He's still coaching, but you know full well in the next couple of years he probably won't be. And so he can sort of spout off what he really feels without a lot of repercussions. Because he's not going to be there 10, 15 years from now.
No, and similar to Watson, both the Browns are very relatable, approachable. They relate to younger kids really well, no matter how old they are. They've always been able to do that. Mac, of course, different style than Watson, but Mac has proven success, but he's also proven some adaptability in this era. Watson will tell you he's dealt with some crap just like every other coach, but he's found a way to, kind of fight through it all. And I think I look back at the Tez Walker thing last year, fighting for that player versus the NCAA, finally got him secured. And I think, Mac, he doesn't miss a beat with this stuff.
Number 7. Imagine that.
Hey, we know that guy.
Okay, you say why? I'll tell you why.
Yeah, why Watson?
Because he's the only person on that committee
who's been an AD
and a coach. And I think that's an important deal. One of the things that you all have enjoyed when Watson's been on is him discussing both sides.
Yeah.
AD's got to find the money so the football coach can do whatever.
He sees both.
Absolutely.
And my one qualm with this, I know we got 3 more, is that, he's the only. So I think maybe potentially you may need 1 or 2 more just to – Watson would be perfect, but, the AD side of this is important too. Number 8, Deion Sanders.
Neon Deion. Here's where I'm going with this. You cannot have a committee for this important topic and have no African American representation. Think about it. What would we guess? 70, 80% of the players who matter on the D1 level are African American.
Yeah.
This guy is a trendsetter in this game. He is part of the future of it. For that reason, he's got a seat at the table. My table.
Very close with Nick Saban, of course. You've seen him in the Aflac commercials. But I think David Shaw would be another great one.
I didn't think about David Shaw.
I'm not saying sub Deion out for
David,
but
I'm not.
I do think David would be another
I'm
good
not
one.
subbing him out. I'm subbing number 10 out.
Okay.
I like yours better.
Okay.
Number 9.
Bruce.
Okay, now we just had him on.
Biased.
Pulls no punches.
Yeah.
And this committee needs somebody in the room who looks at somebody else and says, cut the crap. Okay? I know what you've been doing. You're not fooling me.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Arians, I want him on that staff.
Well, he understands the NFL contracts, and maybe he could help with, what if we get player contracts here in the next few years in college? You might be going that way.
Number 10, I am letting go of Marcus Freeman, who probably didn't want to be on the committee anyway.
Yeah, a little too young.
And I'm putting David Shaw in there.
I like
David Shaw is an incredibly well-respected former coach who I don't get the feeling is going to get back in and can tell it like it is.
Yeah, he's got to. I have a feeling he'll have some answers, because he's – and if you think about David Shaw going through a lot of these schools, he's really the only one that had coached at an academic type school. If you go back and think at that list. So I think that might be important too.
Okay. Here's what I want this committee to come away with. First of all, we have got to come up with something way better than transfer portal as it is now. The JT Daniels model, where you can transfer until you're in a nursing home, is not going to work. Is it that you get one freebie and the only option after that is if your head coach leaves? What is the model? I want this committee to give me the definitive, here is what we recommend has to happen in the transfer portal.
One problem, and I'm not saying this would be a problem, but a lot of these coaches are probably biased towards the school they coached at. So they would have to take a lot of that away. Like if Whittingham's on it, if he's still coaching at Utah, I'm not saying that would be a problem, but I do think that is something you would have to think about. It's maybe spreading some of the wealth. You got maybe a guy from the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, kind of making it to where it's not, okay, the SEC is what these committee members care about, as opposed to just the whole of college football.
Billy, these committee members are on here as what I will call board of trustee members. They're not on the board of trust of a school. They're on the board of trust of college football. And if they accept the role, then they are expected to put aside what is their own personal preferences for personal gain for the good of the whole. That's what we have not had, is anybody who says, I'm looking out for the good of the game, for the good of the sport. I think there are people on this committee that can do that.
Yeah. I mean, look, they need it. And I think they need it sooner rather than later, too. I think a lot of the, like Saban was an obvious. I think Mac Brown and Watson are obviously two great choices as well. I like Whittingham, out west.
Put a little thought into it.
Yeah. Stoops, of course. Snyder, that's a good one. I don't think many people thought about either. I like it.
I like the list. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, and I like your David Shaw. Marcus Freeman I put on there because Notre Dame is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Another and they're a unique deal.
Yeah. Another one might be Herm Edwards. I know he's more NFL. It didn't really work out at Arizona State, but, every time we've had him on, I think he's spoken some truth too. Now he's big time old school, maybe even more. Like Nick Saban is old school, but he is in it for the players. I'm not saying Herm isn't, but you got to have some taste for today's world. I'm not saying Herm doesn't, but I do think Herm might have to kind of shift a little bit of that because he is so old school.
Here is another that would ruffle feathers in that room. Steve Spurrier.
Oh, man.
Under others who received votes, Spurrier was one I thought about.
Man,
because Spurrier's one who would likely go in and call some people out. He doesn't care anymore. He's not getting back into coaching.
Yeah. This is kind of biased.
Anybody else put one out there that we need to talk about?
Carl on YouTube says no Dion.
No Dion. I think first of all, I think you have to have African-American representation. To not do that is incredibly tone deaf, given that the majority of players who are ultimately going to live with whatever rule system they set up are African-American.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why Carl wouldn't want Dion on there.
I put him on there because I think coaches need to be able to look at him and say, you feel like a guy that's pushing the envelope to the very edge, and yet you're always talking about you want to do things right. Tell us what's right.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Dion would be a great option, but I do understand with a lot of this Colorado stuff.
It doesn't mean I'm right. It means it's one person's opinion of a committee. And
sometimes you need some different voices like a Dion.
Now, I'll say this. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. C-SPAN would love to be able to televise these meetings.
Oh, my gosh.
Gosh. So transfer portal is an area that they have to deal with.
Yep.
A second one is NIL. And with that in mind, I think they need a strong attorney in the room who can tell them, listen, what you're saying is great, but the Supreme Court will shoot it down. The court system will, what can they do that the court system won't bash?
Yeah, let me give you a good one here. Jay Billis. I know we're talking football here.
Yeah, this is football.
But you brought up courts. I think I think football might need to find a guy like a Jay Billis who, he's a Duke guy.
He can go do his own.
But who's that football guy? Who's that Jay Billis for football? Because I think you obviously need somebody. I'm not saying these coaches don't have any law knowledge or, federal court, NCAA. I do think you might need at least a guy that does.
Yeah, get an attorney.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, like Billis, for example, played. He's a fan of the game. He's an analyst. He loves the game.
If you want to go that route, the guy we had on the panel here, Tony Barnhart, would be a darn good one.
Yeah, Tony. I don't know. It's like basketball. Billis is a no-brainer, but in football, I think you have to think a little bit harder.
Okay, I want answers. I want this committee to meet. We'll bring them all the ice cream and dessert they want. But for 2 days, the Nick Saban committee, plaster style, has got to make college football a hell of a lot better. The game that we watch on Saturday is great, but the sausage and how it's made, boy, we don't want to know.
Just got a text from Mark. Grab one of the Mannings since they rule the football world. Peyton or Eli?
Archie.
Archie.
Would be a good one.
That'd be a great one.
Okay. We'll bring this one back to the table down the road. Get more of your suggestions. We're back to pat ourselves on the back. We have a 1-game winning streak. Thus, Plaster Bet of the Day is on an uptick. But that can all change over the weekend.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
The folks at Cool Springs MD will be holding an open house Thursday, February the 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. They'll be unveiling the new Empower laser, which is incredible. It will turn back the clock on your body and it's the only laser indicated for mixed urinary stress incontinence. Turn back the clock and take control of your body with the new Empower Laser. They'll unveil it at Cool Springs MD. Hope to see you Thursday night, February the 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank and Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank and Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Final segment on a Friday. Big weekend of SEC hoops. We'll see where George is going. We'll review a little bit. And it's all brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. All right, let's see what happened last night. We already talked about it. And, George, I made a mistake in saying Washington State was favored by 11.5 for some reason. So I made it red.
So what is our record?
40-45 instead of 39-46.
Okay.
So my
I'm pretty
mistake
proud of that one. That was on these money line things, Washington State last night brings back a pretty penny.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know, but if you thought they were going to win outright, which not many of us did.
Well, I had a feeling. I wasn't as confident as you were in actually making that bet, but
I just thought
good on you.
The line by the time they got to tip-off was 13.5, and that's way too many.
Yeah, so either way, they're going to, if they lose, they'll cover.
So 3 SEC games I've picked, and here we go. Boom.
Ole Miss minus 2.5.
I think South Carolina has hit a little bit of a wall. That doesn't mean it's a permanent wall, because this is a team that at one point was 21-3. The last couple of weeks, they haven't felt like that.
No.
Ole Miss at home, really good, fighting for their lives, fighting to, at worst, get into Dayton as part of the NCAA tournament. It's a game they have to win. It's a game South Carolina wants to win. Ole Miss has got better offense. They can score in bunches better. They win tomorrow, and they cover in Oxford.
I'm with you. Ole Miss is trending up. South Carolina is trending down.
Rupp Arena is the scene of this one. What is Kentucky? Is Kentucky really good enough to go to Auburn and dominate? They were last Saturday. So are they good enough to replicate that at Rupp against a really good Alabama? This is sort of a put up or shut up game for Kentucky.
Yep.
Because they want you to believe that they're a Final Four contender. And last Saturday, they were. Wednesday night, I don't know what they were.
Yeah, and they haven't been good at home this year.
They really have not been.
Which is really weird.
But that place will be hopping. And Alabama will have to play really well to win. I'm not saying they don't, but I think Kentucky has to have this one.
Yep.
They have got to get their people truly believing that they are a second weekend NCAA team. They can't afford a loss to Bama.
No doubt.
I think they squeak it out in a great game.
That's going to be awesome, but if Bama wins this, they still got to play Tennessee, but they are at the top in terms of regular season SEC title. Up next.
Blowout.
This this game ain't going to be close.
I don't think it is either. Tennessee's got all the revenge factors. They're pissed off at the way A&M treated them down there. A&M struggles in the half court. Tennessee really plays good defense, and they remember what happened 2 weeks ago. Tennessee not only wins, they cover, and I'm going 3-0.
I don't understand a lot of the frustration with how A&M treated them.
I don't know. I didn't get to see it.
I heard a lot of that too.
Yeah. I was at the Preds game that night, so I really don't know, but I've heard an awful lot about it. And you got to think that that's going on in their locker room.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be ready to play, especially Rick Barnes coaching at Texas for as long as he did. He doesn't like A&M.
Little cooler tomorrow. Sunday's forecast sounds really good. Enjoy what's starting to feel a little more like we're getting close to spring and out of winter. We'll see you Monday. We're going to have a good show. Thanks for being with us.